Welcome to Choose Africa. I'm your host, Valerie Bowden, and today I want to dive into a hot topic and a big myth, and that is, does outsourcing take away jobs from Americans? Now, when I tell people I have a company called CRDLE that does outsourcing, I can see immediately the cringe that they feel. And that's because outsourcing is unfortunately associated with a lot of negative things that I don't actually think are true. And one of the biggest things I hear from our clients is, well, we don't want to take away jobs from the local economy or from Americans. Or when we talk about trying to get funding from USAID or other really cool large funding agencies, one of the biggest things that they come back to is, well, we still have to prioritize local jobs. And this brings me to the biggest myth of all when it comes to outsourcing, is that I don't think outsourcing takes away jobs from Americans. And so in this short episode, I'm going to cover just 3 of the many reasons why outsourcing doesn't take away jobs from Americans, and instead it actually builds stronger local businesses, especially for the small and medium business owner. And that's for 3 main reasons, which I'm going to dive into. But the 3 reasons are: 1, most businesses would not hire for these positions anyways. Number 2, done right, outsourcing actually supports a company, especially in the sales and customer service departments. And number 3, it actually keeps businesses afloat and makes them stronger during difficult times. So let's dive into these 3 things, and then we'll take away some takeaways for your own business. So number 1, I find when I especially look at our clients at CRDLE, that most of the businesses that we're working with would not be able to afford for the positions. And so I'm talking about a CEO that cannot afford to have a VA locally, because that could be $20 to $40 on average, I think is like a typical cost of an admin assistant in the US, where they could get it somewhere in, let's say, an African country for significantly cheaper. So let me just dive into that a little more. We have a new, she's like a solopreneur of a business that has just taken off. She has large clients. She is working 10 hours a day. And despite having so much revenue come in, the idea of hiring like a full-time local VA to support her is a little bit daunting. And still, as a new business, unfunded in its kind of infancy, she doesn't want to be spending a lot of money on labor cost. So instead, she hired 2 of our VAs to support her during it's a 10-hour shift. Each one does 5 hours. So this is a great example of a CEO who probably wouldn't hire locally, but because she's using our VAs, she's able to get so much done. And actually, one of the first tasks that she had our VAs do is track her time. And I know that there's apps for that, but it's not quite the same. And what happened when our VA started tracking her time, they realized, oh, she actually has more billable hours to this client than she's actually charging. So immediately in week 1, there was already an ROI for her, because she was able to go back to the clients and be, actually, I'm doing 4 extra hours than I've been recording. So I need to either charge for those. And if you can't pay for them, here are the other options. Right? So that's just one example, is that typically the companies who are hiring affordable remote labor overseas would not be able to afford for those positions locally, meaning that the local staff, especially the CEO and the C-suite, is doing way too many things and isn't focusing on the things that they really need to do. We have a new client starting next week, and he basically told us we only are going to start doing revenue generating activities, and everything else we're going to outsource for. And I have no doubt in my mind that this company is going to take off crazy, because they're really prioritizing using their local staff to make money, and everything else is going to be done by affordable assistance in the back end. Okay, so that's point number 1. Point number 2 on why outsourcing does not take away jobs from Americans is because generally, when done right, these remote team members can actually dramatically increase your sales and your customer support. So let me give an example from one of our clients. It's a really cool med tech company. It's actually based in the Pittsburgh area where I'm based. And they have these really awesome sales reps who go to doctors' offices and try and schedule appointments so that they can show the doctors the product. It's a really cool, innovative product. And then once the doctor signs off on it, they can start prescribing it to patients, and then our client makes money, and then the patients in return get a really cool product that's not well known. Okay, so what their sales reps were doing before is either spending all day hitting the phones, calling. And as you know, when you call a doctor's office, it is not a quick wait. Usually you can be on the phone from 5-10 minutes or leaving a voicemail, waiting for the phone to call you back. So that's what they were doing. Or they were literally getting in their car, driving around town, dropping in at doctor's offices, trying to schedule an appointment for a different day. So it was a waste of time on their end. Instead, they have 3 of our appointment setters now who spend 8 hours a day calling doctor's offices saying, "Hi, I'm so-and-so from this company. I was wondering if you guys do lunch and learns." And if the doctor's office says yes, they explain, "Okay, perfect. So we have this product. It's for this type of client or this type of patient." Then they verify that this doctor's office sees these type of patients. So we add filter questions to make sure it's a good appointment before we set it. And then once the doctor's office signs off, they schedule it using like the Google Calendar on the sales rep's calendar. And then all the sales rep has to do is, call a week before and confirm, figure out the lunch order, which our reps could do, but we just realized it's better for them to do it to just like another touch point with the doctor's office. And then the rep shows up and closes the deal. And so this is a good example of now their sales team only has to show up and pretty much close the deal. Okay, that saves them so much more time. They can do so many more appointments. And we're getting these really cool stories about how doctors' offices that they had previously visited in person were saying no to them. But over the phone, our appointment setter was actually able to get them that appointment that they really wanted. So it's a good example that this team is now making better revenue. Their expensive sales reps that are based in the US are actually making more money because of our team. So it's not taking jobs away. Instead, it's helping their sales reps and their business make more money. Now, the same thing can be said for customer service. I'm a huge customer service junkie. And when I call a business and I'm on hold for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, listening to the worst music, which on a side note, I don't know why they don't put better music when you're on hold for that long. I wouldn't complain as much if I was listening to like Taylor Swift, right? But if you're able to have a tier 1, level 1 customer support, either live chat, phone, or email, handle those level 1 questions and then pass them on to your other customer support team. So that would do a few things. First, your customers would have less time to wait, which would make them happier. Second, your customer support team that's based in the US and is expensive would handle only the hard problems that really require their expertise and knowledge to handle. And it would also relieve them a little bit so their job's not as so stressful, which would probably increase your employee retention. So you'd increase employee and customer loyalty. And that's what you need. So again, just to sum this up, example number 2 is that when done right, you can actually drive sales and increase your customer support and even your own employee retention when you build in affordable remote team members. And if you're worried about getting your team on board with remote talent, when you pitch it to them like this, you're going to make more money because you're going to have more appointments and you're going to have less cold calling. Or you're going to have happier customers who come to you because they waited less and you're only solving the most difficult problems and you're not wasting your time on these super easy ones. They're going to be happy. Trust me, no one's going to complain about that. Now, the third thing is that you actually build stronger companies when you have a hybrid model of some affordable talent mixed into your business. Now, we've only had one client who actually, in all transparency, fired their North American sales reps and use our sales reps only. So let me explain what happened. This client is in a super regulated industry. So they help business owners get tax refunds that were put out by the government for the Corona Family First relief effort. Okay. So that might not be the correct term it's like a long acronym, but basically they're calling business owners all day long and saying, hey, did you apply for this grant, this funding that you're eligible for, that the IRS is supportive of? If you haven't applied for it, like, let me walk you through and see if you qualify. So it's a really cool program that's putting money back into business owners. It's something that even as a business owner myself, I had never heard about before. So I'm, really happy to be working with a client that's doing such great work. And initially they hired our cold callers to do the initial appointment, qualified them to make sure that they were making enough money. And then they push them over to the sales team in North America that then closed the deal. However, this industry went through so many regulations. I mean, devastating, regulations that was about to shut down this business. And so what they realized was their North American sales team was too much money. They let them go. They turned our cold callers into closers. So this shows a couple of things. One, that the level of talent coming out of African countries is crazy good, that it's not always just entry-level positions, that they can really move up the ranks and become full-on closers in a really hard industry. Like pitching people a tax refund over the phone is a hard sell because it sounds like a scam, even though it's not. Number two, because of the regulations that this client faced, I think most likely they would have gone bankrupt or closed their doors because they were not able to afford their team members. But instead, by letting their North American team go, that cost a few jobs locally, but it kept their main business alive and will continue to grow and grow because of that. So it's still in the end built a stronger US company that has a lot of other benefits. So when you look at companies like, let's say, Red Lobster just announced that they are letting go, lots of employees or closing down stores. And when you looked at the reasons why they said that they were closing, cost of labor was one of the top reasons why they had to close stores. Now, obviously, not all positions in a restaurant can be done remotely. You're not going to probably have a remote waitress in Ethiopia taking the order yet. But if they would have integrated some of their admin, payroll, social media support done remotely abroad for a cheaper cost, most likely they could have saved some costs and maybe closed less stores, which would have still preserved more jobs locally. So just kind of in summary, again, when you're looking at outsourcing, I think there's a lot of fear around it taking jobs from the US, but actually the research shows, and what we've seen with our own clients, that businesses either wouldn't hire for those positions, especially small and medium businesses. It's giving them the access to affordable talent and building stronger businesses. Number two, it's increasing sales and customer support, making better, happier customers and happier sales reps. And three, for companies that are struggling, remote talent can kind of keep them afloat. So I'm not, against US talent. In fact, there's some amazing US talent, but with American talent comes really high cost. And what you can do is hire the best in the US and then support them and have some of your jobs done remotely overseas for a more affordable rate. And then together, that hybrid model will, one, increase your profits and truly make US economy stronger. So that's my thought. Leave it in a comment below if you agree with this. If you want to learn more about outsourcing, you can keep following this podcast. Leave a 5-star review would be super helpful. And then, of course, if you need to support some of your staff with affordable team members, go to cradle.com, that's CRDLE.com. You can meet with me or someone on my team to learn more about what we do. But in the meantime, I hope that this podcast kind of jogs your ideas and memories about what you associate outsourcing with and helps you start to see that done right, it can be the best thing in the world for not only your business, but more businesses in your community. So thanks for listening. Keep following along, and I'll see you on the next podcast.